this video, I'm going to be breaking down the best and worst vehicles in my Turo fleet. But I'm not just going to be talking about which cars do well and which ones do poorly. I'm also going to be talking about why I think these cars do well and how you can replicate these vehicles in your own fleet. But before we dive into that, I do want to let you guys know that my course, the Car Sharing Masterclass, its Black Friday sale is almost over and it ends on November 30th. So if you want to check out the course at a discounted rate, be sure to use the code BLACKFRIDAY275 and be sure to do so before November 30th in order to get $275 off your purchase. Now, the Car Sharing Masterclass is an incredibly robust course that teaches you everything that you need to know about starting and scaling a car sharing fleet with the same business model that I use. We teach you how to identify which cars are worth buying, how to find and negotiate below market value deals, how to do incredibly thorough pre-purchase inspections, how to make your fleet as semi-passive as possible with remote key exchanges, automated messaging, and more, how to tackle maintenance and repairs, damage claims, and how you can profit off of these, business and LLC formation, insurance, banking, accounting. We even have co-hosting contract templates that you can use with your own fleet if co-hosting is something that you're interested in doing. Not only that, but members of the Car Sharing Masterclass get access to all current but also all future content as well. And we are currently planning out our third iteration of the course, which will be released in 2025. And let me tell you, it's robust. We have a ton of new content coming, and I'm extremely excited to tell you guys about it when it gets closer. When you sign up for the Car Share Masterclass, you also get access to our private Discord and our private monthly Zoom call as well. Again, this sale ends on November 30th, and so if you want to check that out, be sure to click on the link down in the description below, as well as in the pinned comment section, and you can use the code BLACKFRIDAY275 to get $275 off. Now, first, let's start this off by talking about one of the best cars in my fleet, and this is a car that has been absolutely crushing it this year, and in recent months, it's far exceeded my expectations, and that is my 2018 Lincoln Navigator L. Now, this one is a bit skewed because this car should be the best performing car in our fleet because it's 3 to 4 times more expensive than every other vehicle we own. But overall, the Lincoln has been doing extremely well, and I'm very happy with how it's been performing. Now, we got this Lincoln last November, in fact, almost exactly a year to the day. We paid $37,000, we financed $30,000, and we actually paid it off this month. So as of about a week ago, it's completely paid off, which I'm really happy about. Now, we bought this Lincoln for a few different reasons. First is I wanted access to a large SUV for family road trips with my nieces and sisters, especially now that I have a house out of state. Secondly is tax reasons. The Lincoln qualifies for Section 179 and was a good tax play. And thirdly is we wanted a large SUV in our fleet to cater to families. Now, the reason why we settled on the Lincoln rather than something like a Chevy or a Ford is because the Lincoln Navigator, similar to something like a Cadillac Escalade, has a high perceived value. Now, let me explain. Now, whenever I looked at growing my Turo fleet, I pretty much exclusively use one of two business models. I am no doubt known as the economy business model person here on YouTube. That is where the vast majority of my vehicles fit in. Cars that are $5,000 to $7,000, they're targeting that budget renter. They fit into that economical vehicle category. But the other category of vehicle that I do occasionally buy are vehicles that could be considered high perceived value, which means that a car looks expensive, it feels expensive, but because of poor depreciation, it was actually very, very cheap, at least relative to the MSRP. Great examples of cars with high perceived values are ones like our Mercedes. I have 2 Mercedes in our fleet, and while the Mercedes only cost $7,000 and $6,000 each, guests frequently rent them and tell us they're doing so for special occasions and they want a nice car. The Maserati we bought back in 2021 was the exact same. The car looked expensive, it felt expensive, but it was only $30,000, a lot less than the $100,000 price point new. And the Lincoln Navigator is bought with the exact same methodology. The Lincoln Navigator brand new had an MSRP of about $98,000, and we purchased the car for $37,000, so pretty big discount. And as a result of that high value perception, cars can rent for a lot more than comparably priced cars. A $37,000 car in Turo, like a Ford, Hyundai, Chevy, may rent for between $50 to $60 per day, but a higher perceived value car like a Lincoln will rent for between $80 to $110 per day, depending on the time of the year. So the Lincoln, from an ROI perspective, has been a great performer because of the fact that it has that high value perception and because of the fact it is an XL SUV and it is a bit of a niche vehicle in that regard. One factor that has made a pretty big difference with the Lincoln Navigator is delivery. We do offer delivery on the Lincoln to both Love Field as well as DFW Airport, and the difference we saw pre-offering delivery and post-offering it has been day and night. The Navigator is booked the vast majority of the time. In fact, it has far better utilization than I was originally expecting, and only about half of these trips are delivery trips. The other half are at our actual location. I have made a standalone video about this, so I'm not going to dive into it a whole lot here, but basically what the Lincoln taught us is that by offering delivery, you can increase your ranking even for non-delivery trips, and that's exactly what we saw with the Navigator. Overall, I'm super pleased with how the Lincoln has been doing, but I do want to offer a one very, very important caveat here with Lincoln specifically. I think that what the Lincoln has achieved can probably be achieved by any high perceived value three-row vehicle. I think an excellent additional example would be something like an Escalade. As far as Lincoln specifically and the Lincoln brand, I definitely have a love-hate relationship with Lincoln. I like my Lincoln, I like the way that it looks, I think it's a very cool car, but it has had hit or miss reliability. A couple of weeks into owning the car, the odometer stopped working, an issue that Lincoln was aware of, and we still had to pay $700 out of pocket to get it fixed. And then 6 months later, it had a major transmission issue, another issue that Lincoln was aware of, and we had to pay like $2,800 to get it fixed. But fortunately, we got it fixed to where hopefully this issue never happens again, so the car should be a lot more reliable in 2025, but reliability has definitely been disappointing. Now on to a poor performer is my green 2011 Mazda 2. This is a car we've had for a long time. We got it back in 2021. I really love Mazda 2s. They've been extremely reliable. I personally really like the way that they look, but our green one specifically has never been a great performer. And while this car does actually get a pretty decent rate, anywhere between $30 to $38 per day, and it has been incredibly reliable, it's oftentimes the last car of our fleet to get booked out, and if there is one car in my fleet that I consistently have to lower prices on, it is often this one. We have another Mazda 2 in our fleet, a blue one, that does much better, so that leads me to believe that the reason why this one does poorly is because it's green. We've actually had repeat guests of ours tell us that they don't like renting that Mazda because of the fact that the color is so loud. Which is funny because I actually really like the green, but I mean, obviously other people don't. And so this has taught us an important lesson on what colors mean for Turo guests and Turo hosts. But what's also interesting is that we have a Ford Fiesta, which is also green, but the Fiesta has done a lot better than the Mazda, possibly because of the shape or the tone of the color. Ford Fiesta has kind of a lower tone green. It's more of a muted green, while the Mazda 2 is a much more loud green. So maybe that would explain why one does better than the other, even though they are technically the same color. But I would say that what the Mazda 2 has taught us is that color absolutely makes a difference with a Turo listing. And whenever you are buying a car, you should look at the color in the context of that car. I have no doubt that if you were to get something like a Lamborghini, green would probably help that listing. But on something like a Mazda 2, it definitely doesn't. I think getting cars with neutral colors is probably always going to be the best bet unless you find one of those one-off experience-based cars where the loud color actually fits the car, or unless you find a car that's just such a stupid good deal that it doesn't really matter what the color is. But no doubt, color is absolutely a component that should be taken into account whenever you're adding new cars, and it will affect the rentability of that car. Next up is the sub $32 per day car, really the sub $30 per day car. I'm a big believer that if you buy a car that can be rented for $30 per day and you still make good money, that this is a car that will almost be guaranteed to do well. We've purchased so many cars over the years that people told us would do poorly. From Toyota Yaris's to our Scion IQ to our most recent addition, the Smart Car. The Smart Car specifically, we were told by so many people it was a mistake. But the thing is, people want cheap cars, and there are a lot of people out there who don't really care what they rent as long as it's cheap. And as a result, even the smallest, most obscure cars in our fleet, like the IQ or the Smart Car, do very, very well because they are cheap to rent. Now, it is incredibly important to know that you should only price your cars cheaply to rent if you can still make money while you do that. If you buy a $30,000 car, there is no reality that that car should ever be priced at $30 per day. But if you buy a $5,000 or $6,000 car, that car can absolutely be priced at $30 per day, especially if that car is reliable and has low maintenance costs. Time and time again, our cars that are priced for between $30 and $35 per day are the cars that are just making a killing, especially if you take into account how much we paid for the car and the ROI that we're making. Another car that I want to talk about, and this is one I'm going to put into the poor performing category, even though this car definitely doesn't perform poorly, but it doesn't perform as well as I possibly thought it would. And that is our 2011 Volvo S40. We bought this 2011 Volvo S40 last year, and I really love this car. I think it's timeless looking. We bought it for a great price, $4,700 out the door, and of all of the cars in my fleet, this one is for sure one of my favorites. But truthfully, it's never done as well as we thought it would. We have two Mercedes in our fleet, a 2013 C250 and a 2009 C300. For a long time, the C300 was the best performing car in our fleet, and even the C250 did very, very well. These cars crushed it. And I truthfully expected for the Volvo to do very comparably to the Mercedes, but it just never has. And this sort of goes back to what we've talked about throughout this video, which is value perception. For whatever reason, people don't associate Volvo to the same level as Mercedes. Even though I personally think that these brands are very comparable, and whenever I look at the S40 to the Mercedes C300, I personally like the S40 better, guests just don't see it that way. The name recognition just isn't there, and as a result, the Volvo doesn't run as often as the Mercedes, it doesn't make as much, and it doesn't run for as high of a daily rate. Which again is fine because we bought this car for a really great deal, and I personally again really like this car, but it is a bit surprising, and this is absolutely something that will impact how we buy non-Mercedes brands in the luxury segment moving forward. But there you guys have it. Remember that my course, the Car Sharing Masterclass, is on sale until the 30th, which is so close. So if you want to check it out and you want to get that discount, make sure to do so because the sale is going to be over before you know it. You can use the code Black Friday 275 to get $275 off. The link is down in the description below as well as in the pinned comment section. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Like always, if you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it. So make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next video.